Morning everybody, it's David with Run, and I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. Today I am obviously lifting some beams into place. These are the beams that ultimately will be holding the roof up, so these are ridge beams, and I cut them out of poplar. You probably saw that a couple of videos ago, or quite a few videos ago, and now it's time to try and get them into place. There are two different beams here. Both of them are about 20, 22, 23 feet long. I don't really know how much they weigh, a couple 100 pounds each, meaning 500 pounds easily. And I was trying to figure out how to get them up kind of in stages, so I'm not basically using the gin pole to hang them freely. So I set up the scaffolding underneath, which basically allows me to lift it up 5 feet, make some adjustments, lift it up another 5 feet, make some adjustments, and then I can get it into place. Here you can see I'm basically cutting out a notch so that it will sit on the end wall column that I made. So cutting out this notch took a bit of time, trying to figure out basically the depth of the notch, the width of the notch, and to make this beam sit as flat and level as possible, given the fact that, you know, I cut this whole thing with the chainsaw, so it's not perfectly straight in any way, shape, or form, and so I need to just get every one of these sitting nicely. So this took a little bit of time to get it notched, and then I had to move it into place. Next, I needed to notch a bird's mouth into this rafter. The rafter was put in place when I originally built the wall, but I had no idea how tall the wall was going to be. In other words, where this notch needed to be put. I didn't know the size of my beam that was going in, how it was going to sit, etc. So I had to do it after the fact and couldn't do it beforehand. In the end, it actually sat pretty well. Next up was lifting this beam in the air. Couple of things that happened. First of all, it was incredibly long and actually sticks about 6.5, 7 feet out the right-hand side of the building. Secondly, the left-hand side of the beam needed to be on the other side of this column. And third thing is, I couldn't put the third column in place because the beam was in the way and there was no way to kind of maneuver the whole thing together. So it was basically I had to lift it up, maneuver it best I could using the window, put it down on one set of scaffolding, reposition, lift it up to the next set of scaffolding, on and on. So this was a very long process and a lot of just kind of pushing and pulling and prodding to get it where I wanted it to go. Okay, now that the beam is mostly in a safe location, I can go ahead and lift this column up where it needs to go. Unfortunately, now that all the scaffolding is here, it's basically just in the way. So this was a process of lifting it a little bit, undoing, some of the bracing for the scaffolding, lifting it up a little bit more, moving my walkboards around, pushing things back and forth, a little more lifting, on and on. Sure, it would have been officially easier to do this first, but again, I couldn't lift it up and get the beam in place because it was just, I didn't have the room to make it happen. And the worst part is that my gin pole is basically as long as I can make it. It's a 16-foot gin pole, and I needed every inch of that. Normal people, I guess, would have rented a crane and made this quote-unquote easier, but hey, I'm not going to spend a couple of grand for a crane when I can do this all by myself. Okay, now I gotta roll this beam over. It was lifted upside down, so to speak, so I gotta flip it over, move it more into place, get it about the right height, and then I can figure out where I'm gonna cut the beam to for the poles, for the notches, and then this long section here. So I had to mark it off, and I made it just a little bit small so I could increase the size, because obviously we can increase size but we can't decrease size. So I'm just going to cut this out. Once it's cut out, then I can maneuver the beam back and forth, do a little more trimming back and forth. For whatever it's worth, this truly took about 4 hours to get the beam cut and sitting nicely here on the right hand side, so then I could figure out how to get the left hand side to sit nice and level and look correct. Yeah, problem is this is not cooperating down here. Ooh, voila. Okay, come back. Well, I got the beam rolled back on its side, put a notch in for the column, cut the column off to length, and I also notched the far end, a little hard to see right there, but there's a better shot of it. This had to get cleaned up, by the way. And now I need to roll it back over, and unfortunately it's basically just being supported slightly by this center column and a little bit on the end you can't see. So I'm trying to balance it and keep it from rolling while at the same time getting it to be put into place. So this was a little tricky, and I was constantly worried it was going to either roll backwards away from me, which would have been safer, or worse, roll towards me, and well, I wouldn't be making this video if that was the case. So all came out in the end. For my final trick of the day, I need to cut the bird's mouth on the other side for the beam to fit in. Again, same thing. The rafter was put in when I built the wall, and I wasn't sure about the height or the angles or the size of the beam, etc. So I put in all my studs and just figured, well, I'm going to leave a hole here with my sheathing off, and I can just put it back in, put sheathing on later, and cut my hole out, and I'll be good to go. Well, I want to thank you again for watching another one of our videos. If you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, don't forget to put them in the comment section below. If you're enjoying our content, of course, we would love you to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It will help us out a lot. And until the next video, everybody have an absolutely fantastic day. Thanks again.